The METUS Tech Show.
Welcome to the METUS Tech Show, a show for HVAC professionals by HVAC professionals.
The METUS Tech Show.
All right, we talk about, all the listeners know, we talk about food at the beginning of our episodes, and I got Scott Tallman with me, and Scott has a history of doing quite a bit of barbecuing, and we've talked about barbecue in the past, but I think it's worth a revisit to know what you've been doing recently in the barbecue competition world and what you've done in the past. So talk about how you got into barbecue to begin with.
Okay, so funny story. So I'm from California, right? So what made me get into cooking with my dad was he used to cook with a meat called tri-tip. You ever heard of that?
Yeah.
You can't find that here in Georgia, in the South.
Really?
I get funny looks. Like, what? Tri-tip? Never heard of it.
It's not a really popular cut of meat. I mean, I don't even think we have them in the supermarkets unless you ask for it.
You have to ask for it. I have to go to a butcher. So my local butcher now carries it because of me. But to me, it's hands down, one of my favorite pieces of meat to cook today, even now with all my barbecue.
So your dad was cooking it?
Yeah. So he has a marinade that he does, and I fell in love with it and growing up with that. So, but in Cali, when you go to a barbecue cookout, right? Their barbecue cookout is hamburgers and hot dogs. That's their, that's their mindset. So I moved here to Georgia and went to a buddy's house, and he invited me over for, barbecue cookout. So what do? I went to a store and grabbed some some hamburgers and hot dogs.
Yeah.
I show up to the party and this guy has a green egg, 3 different types of smokers. My mouth was like on the ground, and I had to bring it back up, and here I am showing up to the party with one hand and some frozen hamburgers, and the other hand with some hot dogs.
He's like, get out of here.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The guy straight up laughs at me. He goes, "Go put that back in your car. We don't need that." And so I fell that moment. I went to a big green egg. He was cooking chicken wings. At that point, the best I've ever had, smoked wings. I don't think I've ever had smoked wings up until that point. Then he had another smoker. He had ribs, and another smoker. He had he was smoking pork butt. And after that party, I fell in love with. I had a passion for cooking then, just real basic. And then from there, I bought myself a green egg here in Georgia. So that Big Green Egg headquarters here, based here in Atlanta. Yeah. Every year in Atlanta in October, they have a Big Green Egg Festival at Stone Mountain Park. So I went there. One of the days and I fell in love with a Big Green Egg. So I got myself a Big Green Egg, and the first thing I cooked on it was brisket, and it turned out terrible. It was leather. It was garbage. And I had people coming over thinking I was the best cook in the world. Oh, it was bad. It was bad, to say the least. Good thing I stuck with it.
Yeah. So the Big Green Egg is basically it's lined with ceramic on the inside,
It's
right?
ceramic. It's all it is. That's why I tell people it is ceramic, and I'm a big airflow guy. So Big Green Egg is all about airflow. So down below, if I want to cook about 250 degrees, the vent down below is maybe open, not even quarter of an inch.
And what are you throwing in it? Lump coal?
Yeah, lump charcoal.
Lump charcoal. And you're getting that from Lowe's or Home Depot,
yeah,
whatever.
exactly. Big Green Egg makes their own. I don't use them. I use other brands, but yes.
And do you add any additional wood?
Wood, yeah. And I layer. So what I tell people, if you have a green egg, what I do is I dump a little charcoal in, and these are for long cooks, the 12, 15-hour cooks. Yeah. Dump a little charcoal, dump a little wood in, dump a little charcoal, and so forth. But you got to remember, when it comes to wood, right, to get that smoke, it only penetrates the meat for the first 4 hours. After that, you just need the heat source of cooking that. So it is different caveats to what it is. And when it comes to smoking, there's a lot of, you have to pay attention to your smoke, because a lot of people think they see smoke coming out of your chimney stack or coming out of the vent and like, oh yeah, I'm smoking. That's actually terrible for your meat.
Yeah, and this is the thing with the pellet smoker that I don't know if
Yeah.
it's the right approach, because the pellet smoker in intervals puts out
The smoke. See, and to be honest, I don't know much about pellet smoking. It's just I don't. But it is huge right now on the barbecue circuit.
It is, and I think I don't have the most expensive pellet smoker out there, but I feel like the meat that I'm smoking is getting very
Smoky?
too smoky.
Yeah.
And it takes away from the flavor of the rub. It takes away from the flavor of the barbecue sauce. If I slather on, because I like putting on the barbecue sauce in the last hour of cooking.
Yeah, and that's
and get that to stick. And then I feel like the smoke is just overpowering everything.
Now it all depends on what type of wood, what flavor profile you're cooking with.
Yeah.
Because if you get a strong mesquite or a
hickory,
strong flavor, that will, like when you cook chicken on that all you're just, I don't want to say you're ruining the meat, but all you're doing is tasting a full bite. It's just all smoke, and that's not what it is.
So fast forward, you did the green egg competition.
So my first competition I did was actually on a big green egg, and it was a backyard. So I was part of Kansas City Barbecue Association. So their association, you pay $20 to be a member. It's nothing drastic. What I mean, I'm part of two. I'm part of them, and I'm part of GBA Georgia Barbecue Association. And it's a backyard division. And guys, don't be intimidated by doing it. Join. It's fun. It's a fun event, and they're the nicest people. You go around. My first event, I was nervous as heck. Here I had a big green egg, and I have a Weber. Weber charcoal grill. What I had. Yeah. And backyard, you cook 3 meats: chicken, ribs, and pulled pork or pork. Yeah. And so that's how I started. And the first competition, my goal, right? Here's my goal: is my competition was not to finish last. That's my goal. My first competition I did was not to finish last. And my very first competition I came in, out of 30 teams, I came in roughly 15th place. I'm like, oh, okay, that's kind of right in the smack in the middle.
Out of how many?
30 teams.
Wow, that's really good.
That's kind of, but it's pretty particular, because when I'm talking 15th place, it was the combined score of what it was. So the ribs we did phenomenal on. We came in like what did we come in? Like 6th place to whatever it is. And the chicken, we came around the 15th, 16th, and then the pork butt, we came in low on that one. Yeah. Just the flavor wasn't there. So it was a lot of work. It was 2 people, myself and my counterpart. And then the next competition, it was in Alabama, because that competition was North Carolina, and the next one was in Alabama, and we failed miserably. Wow. We came in almost, not last. Yeah. Very, very close. Yeah. And what we come to realize was it's all about where you're barbecuing. So Alabama. So for example, I make my blackberry barbecue sauce that I make for my chicken. Well, that's a sweet sauce. In fact, I think the one I made you had some kick to it. I think I gave you some flavor. Yeah. Back then when I started, it was sweet. And that's why I went to Alabama. Well, Alabama, they don't do sweet barbecue.
Oh, really?
Oh,
no. The sweet is in Kansas.
Yeah. Well, right. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Kansas, it depends. Like Memphis, you got Memphis style. They do they have different flavor profiles there. It just depends on where you're at in the country, and you have to cook to the environment that you're cooking in. Yeah. Yeah. So I learned that the hard way. I mean, the guy, my counterpart, the team next to me, he saw my score or whatever, and he goes, "Your chicken looks good. Let me try that." He goes, "This is actually like amazing." But the problem is, Alabama don't like the sweetness, man. They like hot, and they gave me a rundown what it is. So definitely a learning experience in the barbecue world.
That's interesting.
And that's what I tell people when you get in the barbecue world. Here's a couple of things I say. One, just because you had a bad cook, don't stop cooking, right? Yeah. Always change, barbecuing is always adapting what you do. Yeah. Number 2 is a lot of people laugh at me at this. I have a logbook. Every cook that I do, I jot down about the cook. Yeah. So that way, if it doesn't come out right, I kind of jot it down, and then I can always go back to it. Like, oh, okay, yeah, don't do this.
Yeah.
Don't do this. Don't
And
do
if
that.
it does come out right, you
It
got
does
some
come out. The
consistency.
flavor and consistency is like perfect. Yes,
You
because I
got-
make my own rubs and I make my own sauces, so I'm always tinkering with my flavor profiles.
Yeah, so if you
that.
make a good rub, it's like, oh shoot, I didn't write anything down.
Yeah, and I
Am I
lose
going to
that.
make it this good the next time? And I've done
And
that
Steve,
myself.
It happens all the time.
I've done that myself, and so I'm thinking of going back to a traditional kettle smoker like I used to have. I used to have this like a
Those are amazing.
egg shaped,
Yes.
small charcoal on the bottom, lump coal on the bottom, whatever it is.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know, I cooked some great food in that thing.
The best steak I ever cooked, what to this day, was on a Weber kettle smoker. And I do now on those. I do offsets. I do. I push the charcoal on one side, and then I cook the steak on the. It's basically called a reverse sear.
Yeah.
And then I cook the steak on the other side, get it to about 100 degrees, and then I put it on to the hot part of the charcoal, and then get that sucker to about, because I like mine medium rare. Put it right to about 120, 118 to 120. Take it off, let it sit for 5 minutes. Oh, you have a gorgeous steak. Works every time. But anyways, So
I could talk about this through the whole episode.
yes,
I just love barbecue, and I love listening to what you do and getting the tips from you, and for sure. But everybody, welcome to the METUS Tech Show. We got a pretty cool show for you today. We're going to talk about request codes.
request codes.
Yeah. So I'm glad you're on it, Scott, because I think this is kind of, you're in the pocket with this stuff and the way our controllers work. And I think that not enough people know we can do this with our equipment. We can request data from the equipment, right? We can ask a P-Series unit, outdoor unit, indoor unit for information and display it on
Correct.
the controller. On a past episode, we talked about the pack tool and how that device can be plugged into a P-Series outdoor unit. And we can kind of do the same thing and ask for request codes and using dip switches and request temperatures and different things from a unit. But with this, we're going to talk today about using the Deluxe MA, like the Par 40s and Par 41. Par 41's coming out
Correct.
very soon, right?
Yes.
And some of the older Par controllers.
Par 30s and stuff like that.
Yeah, so we could do request codes on those controllers. Also, the Touch MA.
See, not very many people know we can do it with the touch.
Yeah, so that Touch MA is our touchscreen controller that we can upload pictures. It's got Bluetooth capability, so we can mirror what's on the controller to your smart device. And we can do request codes with that. First of all, let's talk about where we can find request codes.
That's where I was going to lead to.
Yeah.
All right, so just like anything we told you in past episodes, probably almost every episode, where to find information for request codes is you can find that in the best place is the outdoor service manual. Again, it's on the bottom pages, and you will see a list of request codes.
Doesn't give you all of them, though.
On the service manual, yes, it does.
It does.
On the very bottom pages, yes. But my favorite section where you're going to find the best, where a list of request codes, and B, how to access request codes through our controller. It's an app note. App note is probably my favorite section on my link drive, right?
Yeah. And that's another thing. A lot of people kind of skip by it and don't know what's an app note.
Oh, man, app notes are just, there's
app notes
so much vital. It's information that it's like, I always put it extended to our manuals, right? And it's little caveats of information that it's huge for contractors. So please write this number down. Go to app, or you're going to go to mylinkdrive.com and then select the tab app note.
Yep.
And then app notes broken down into 3 sections. You have the residential section, MMP section. Then you have the city multi section. And then the last section is controls.
Controls, right.
The control section, it does have, it's broken into MMP and city multi grouped as one. So you just have to pay attention to what you're reading.
What you're looking at, yeah.
Exactly. So if you write down this number or remember this note, app note 3061, that is for request code. So if you go to app notes, you can do Control F find, and it'll take you to app note 3061, and then basically it's P series request codes.
And the great thing about this app note is it not only gives you a list of all the request codes, but it also gives you a step-by-step map of the controller
So
what buttons to hit to get to this.
So a lot in my classes, I get a lot of, and I can tell things on top of my head. Okay, go here on the controller, go here. And a lot of contractors like, Scott, how do you know this so well? And I was like, well, one, this is what I do. This is what we do, right?
Yeah.
So we know this.
Yeah.
Contractors may do it once a month or whatever number
Yeah,
they
they
do
may
it.
touch a Mitsubishi controller and not touch one for another year.
Exactly. Just depending on what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
So this app note gives them a step-by-step guide accessing through the controller and how to get to the request code part of the controller, which is great. So again, our main two, and it shows a par 41. It tells you what exactly instructions, press the menu button, and then from there you go to service and so forth. I'm not going to tell you the step-by-step procedure, but again, because I don't want it can be confusing on the podcast. Yeah. So,
and one thing I want to get out of the way, and this is what kind of throws people for a loop, and we just keep talking about things that a lot of contractors don't realize. One of them is knowing your installation and your setup and something called a refrigerant address, right? This is what throws everybody off, and they're like, what are you talking about? Is this city multi-addressing? No, it's not city multi-addressing. We can do something with P-Series units that a lot of people don't realize we can do. We can have a one-to-one P-Series system on its own or multiple one-to-one P-Series systems daisy chained together. And why do we do that? So we can have one controller controlling multiple P-Series systems in, let's say, a data room or server room or a large common room.
like a basketball gymnasium or something like that.
Yeah, you can have one controller. And what benefit does that give us, having one controller controlling multiple P-Series units? Number one, you can do a request code and ask whatever system attached to that daisy chain and request information from that system. Address number 4, what was your last error code?
Yeah.
Address number 6, what is your current discharge superheat, right?
Yep.
What is the temperature of the indoor unit coil on such and such an address? And we can do this from anywhere from 1 outdoor unit to 16.
Yeah. Well, zero.
Starts at 0. That's the thing, right?
0 to 15.
0 is actually a number.
Yeah, 0 to 15.
Isn't actually an address.
Too.
If you look in the manual, it'll show you how to set these P-Series up. So let's just talk about 4 P-Series systems daisy chained together. And the process is to address these P-Series systems, we have to go to each outdoor unit and assign it an address.
Correct.
So what we're doing is we're going to the dip switch bank on the outdoor unit P-Series, and I think it's SW2 dip switch bank on each outdoor unit. And depending on what we want to address those units at will depend on how we're going to flip those switches on that dip switch bank to give it that address. And like I said, the address starts at 0, 1, 2, 3, and that's 4 units. It'd be a little confusing, right?
Yeah. So it's actually SW1.
It's at SW1. Okay. Yeah. So correction. Yeah. SW1 on the P-Series outdoor unit control board is your addressing dip switch for addressing each P-Series system. Another benefit of daisy chaining P-Series systems, let's talk about 2 P-Series systems side by side, and they're both daisy chained together. We can do a lead lag scenario on the P-Series.
Yep. And guess what? That's an app note.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's an app note.
So that's great. Yeah, so we have an app note on that, doing a lead lag setup where you can set up 2 different temperatures. If one happens to not be able to make the meet temperature, the other one will come on. And there's a bunch of different ways to configure it for temperatures, changing the temperature ranges, and having that set up so that you can almost have a wear and tear type scenario. Correct. Where you don't have one P-Series unit running all the time and taking a beating. You can have it alternate.
Yep. And that's a request code.
Yeah. And knowing your refrigerant address when you go into the menu, it's going to ask you for an REF address, refrigerant address.
And 9 out of 10 times, that's going to be 0.
It's going to be 0 because most people are using a one-to-one P-Series on its own.
And a lot of people will change that to 1 just because they think that's, this is 1 unit. And then it will send it, and then it will say, basically, it will give some sort of
It'll kill your controller on the wall.
Yeah.
So it actually removes the 12 volts from TB15 and your controller will go out on you.
Yeah.
So I tell students all the time, I said, look, with dip switches, when you go into dip switches and you're going to make a change, have a plan. Have a plan before you start changing anything. Take a picture of them before you start changing anything.
That's a big one. Take a picture before.
and if you're unsure, go into the manual and look up your factory settings and try to get those dip switches back to the way it came from the factory. Because by flipping one of those dip switches by accident can really mess your day up.
Go through a loop.
Right?
Oh yeah.
You could kill a controller, not damage it. It just removes power from it.
Yeah.
If it's a 1-to-1, it's by itself, and you give it an address other than 0
on the outdoor control board.
Yeah, by changing that dip switch, it'll actually shut your controller off, and you're going to be taking your meter out and wondering why there's no 12 volts feeding your controller, and all it is a dip switch, right? But anyway, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. I just wanted to explain the addressing of P-Series, refrigerant addressing of P-Series
That one right
units.
there gets miscommunicated the most on that one. So I agree. 9 out of 10 times, like we stated, that's going to be, when it says REF address, that is going to be 0 for that. Yeah.
So to access the menu for your request codes, basically we're going to hit the menu button on the controller, or if you're on a touchscreen controller, you're going to see a little picture of tools.
Tools, yeah.
And you hit your tools button. It's the same thing as going into your main service menu. Once you get to your menu, you're going to see some settings, some options.
Well, first
maintenance,
password.
Well, yeah. Before we can get into the service, we're going to hit the password. But you'll see 3 options on there: maintenance, initial setting, and service. To get to request codes, we're going to select service. From there, it's going to ask you for the password. Right?
Yeah. So you're going off of a par 30 controller.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's a par 30. He's
So
following.
it's changed a little bit. Thank you for that.
Yeah, we're going off of that exact app note that we're going over. So for the par 40, which is our most current controller, you're going to hit the service menu. Once you're in service, it's going to ask for a 9-digit password, and that one will be 9999, just like any other controller. It's going to be the 4 9s. And then once you're on there, then you're going to see the service menu, test run, input, maintenance info, settings, and check, and then others.
Yeah.
We would need to go under check, and then under the check menu, that's when you're going to see request code for that. And then when you select request code, that's where you're going to see RF address, refrigerant address, and then the request code, and that's
just below it.
Just below it, exactly.
Yeah, so thank you for correcting me on that, because compared to our par 30 just had basic menu selections. We've prettied up the controller with a par 40, and now you got a picture of a screwdriver and a wrench. That's our service menu, right?
But to your point, Steve, we still have par 30s out there.
Yeah.
So we still, so if the guys on the call, you have a par 30, we do have a step-by-step on the request, on the app note, how to get to the request code option on the par 40 and the par 30.
So on that last screen, when you get to the request code page, it's got two points that you have to enter data in. That's a refrigerant address. If it's a 1-to-1 P-Series by itself, you're going to just leave it at 0. Okay, if it's multiple P-Series daisy chained together and you know your system setup, you're going to put in the address for the unit that you want to request information from. But let's just look at it as a 1-to-1 P-Series system by itself. Contractor's in front of the controller. He's at the request code screen. He's going to leave it at 0. And then just below that, it's going to ask you for the request code. Yes. And you have 3 spaces there that you can add a 3-digit number.
Correct.
Because there is the request codes go up into the hundreds.
Exactly, 2-3 digits. So once you're ready to go, you took care of the refrigerant address. Now you're on the request code number. So on the app note, you scroll down, you go to page 6 on the app note. Then you'll see it'll say request codes 1 through 30 for this particular page. It'll say code 1. And code 1 is compressor operating current, or code 4, which is probably my favorite, the Mister, anyways, is discharge temperature, TH4.
Yeah, that's an important one, right? That's one of our vitals.
That's our vital, right? So, say if you want to look at discharge temperature for that particular outdoor unit, so what you would do on the request code number, you would enter 004. You would not just do 400 because if you do 40, that's 400, or just type in 4, it would not take it. It will say request denied if it's an incorrect number. So in this case, 0.004, and you hit select or select enter, same button. And then it will say in about a couple seconds later, you will see what that temperature it is at that time, whatever the temperature is for TH4. And if, say, after 5 minutes have passed, a minute passed, you want to know what that, maybe you're starting up the unit and you want to see what these temperatures are doing as the minute progresses, all you have to do is hit select again and it will update the number as we do it. And it is real time.
Yeah, so we go to request code 5. You got TH3. That's your liquid pipe temperature. That's, depending if it's on heating and cooling, you know your mode, right?
Yeah, exactly. You get your suction temperature, TH32. That's request code number 8008.
Yep.
So, and then you can get discharge superheat, subcool. I mean, guys, this is information that we're literally providing you.
Yeah.
And making sure, and again, let's talk about these temperatures that we're telling you, right? We're telling you we can give you discharge, superheat, subcool. When we're doing a startup, are we going to be immediately checking out those temperatures? No. The best way to do it is putting these in, if you can, emergency operation, because that's where these are, the parameters are designed to go into effect for that. So let it run for a minimum 15 minutes, but go longer, great, because that's when the system kind of stabilizes. Yep. And it'll give you the most accurate
pressures and temperatures all make sense.
Yes.
Well, let me back up a second. We can't see pressures.
Sorry. That was just comes out of here what we say. It doesn't say
I'd love to see pressures, but they don't have pressure transducers, right? So number 12, discharge superheat. Number 13, subcool. 16, operating frequency of the compressor. How cool is that to see that on an M&P series? We see that on VRF all the time with maintenance tool, but we can pull that up. And you can not only see the actual frequency, you can also pull up the target frequency with request code 17. Now, we could sit here and for days, right? Days.
But another great one I like to do is number 26. We give you what your bus bar voltage is.
Yeah. So why, if you're curious, as obviously if your unit's down, then you're probably not going to be doing request codes. But if you curious about what the DC voltage is, we can pull that up with request code 26. And it just goes on and on. But with all of these request codes, keep in mind, same thing with function settings and a lot of other settings, it's unit specific. So if your request is denied for a certain request code and you get a error message on the screen that it can't pull up that data, then it probably isn't available on that model. So keep that in mind. That's really important. Then when we get into there's a function code 31 through 55. Now we're getting into indoor unit temperatures, and it's looking at indoor unit thermistors, temperature in, temperature out, what your offsets are set to, right?
Another big one, this one gets missed a lot, is function code 150.
150.
Yeah, so if you read that, it says indoor unit actual intake air temperature.
Yeah, so your return
That's your return air thermistor.
Yep.
So a lot of people bypass trying to look for that return error because they're looking for actual return error. So they always miss that. So if you're looking for a return error temperature for your indoor head, request code number 150. So again, you can look at your pipe in, pipe out indoor coil thermistor, right? Remember our indoor heads P series is just a pass through coil, right? So we can see what temperature's going in, temperature's leaving. Yeah. Right. So that's vital. We wanted to see what we're making sure that right there by looking at those numbers, we can see right away if our filter's dirty, if our blower wheels are dirty. It gives you just, if it's.
Now I've noticed messing with this in my training center and doing some request codes that sometimes I get temperatures that are in Celsius.
Yeah.
So is there a way to change that?
So I have noticed just messing around with me in my training center. My assumption is that when you're looking at that, Steve, is you're using an old a PAR 33 controller. If that's when you're reading, if you have an older controller, it's going to read Celsius.
Yeah.
On a new controller, a PAR 40 is when you can actually see Fahrenheit temperatures. Okay. Just to give you
because it was very random.
Yes.
Right? You look up one particular request code and I get Fahrenheit. I look at another request code, it may come in as Celsius. So be ready for that. Get ready to get your phone out and do the conversion if you can't do it in your head.
Yeah.
right?
Exactly. But another thing is too, with request codes, kind of what Steve said was, if you go to your outdoor service manual, it will give you, like I said, it will give you a full list of request codes at the end of the manual. Also, in between the manual, one is the lead lag. We give you that. And also for CN24, backup heat.
Oh, good point.
The
So
timer.
those aren't on here.
No, they're not.
They're not on this app note. Was it 3061? They're not listed on here, but there are app notes in the 300s and 500s.
Yeah, so app note is for the CN24 is 390. 390 to 394 for setting that X timer.
Yes. We've talked about CN24 operation in the past. Old CN24 operation was very simple. 4 degrees away from set point, CN24 is activated for backup heat. That's your connector on the indoor unit that will send 12 volts out to a relay kit, and you do what you need to from there to add your backup heat. New CN24 operation uses some logic in there where temperature drops in the space, and it'll set off a timer, and it'll see if the heat pump by itself can raise the temperature in the space. If it can't, it'll activate CN24. So now that timer is adjustable, and those request codes will change that timer.
Yeah, I'll give you an example of what they are. By the way, for the lead lag numbers, it's for the request code for interval, like when to bring it, how many days and whatnot.
Yeah,
is app note 310 to 318. And then for the request code for when to bring it back, if one unit's struggling and you need the other one to come online to help out with it, it's app note 320 to 324.
Oh, good to know.
I mean, request code 320 to 324. But for the lead lag app note, like I said earlier, it's app note 3024.
Okay.
And that gives it a step-by-step process of setting up that controller and setting up that lead lag operation for whatever the situation calls for.
So great stuff. And again, the only controllers that can do this are the PAR 30s and 40s, and the Touch MA can also access request codes. All right, so I think that just about covers request codes. Like I said, we're not going to call off every request code that's in here. Check it out for yourself. MyLinkDrive.com. Go to your app notes section. App note 3061 is your app note for most of your major request codes. And if you need any request codes for lead lag on a P series or your CN24 operation timer change, then you're going to go to your service manuals for that.
Yeah, service manual have for that. Yep, exactly.
A great option. And like I said, not a lot of people know you can do this with our units, that you can pull this information out of our units. And again, it's unit specific. So if you try and do a request code and you're not getting information back,
it will say request denied.
Yeah.
I tried to do it on our City Multi just to see, and it said request denied. Yeah. Then I saw there's a statement on the app note, does not work with City Multi. I'm like, okay, I should have read, RTFM, read the manual. Yep. So yeah.
All right. That does it for request codes. We'll get into some function settings on the next another episode. And
yeah, definitely. Because that's a big one to discuss.
Yeah. This is basically the same, we're going in the same direction for the menu structure. Going to the service section of the controller. Just
note, just caveat back onto this for request codes. Remember, we need that system running. That's the big piece of that, so we can get accurate data for the system for you guys.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about it that much, but password for the controller, any service passwords for our controllers are going to be 9999.
Yeah.
Except the MHK2, there's a little bit of difference there as far as you got to look in the back of the controller, take that 4-digit number, add 1, 2, 3, 4. Scott's got a little secret back door.
That's what not a lot of people confuse 1, 2, 3, 4. I just say 1,234 plus whatever that is, just because a lot of people add. Yeah, for the MHK2, just go to the menu, go to screen lock, select partial lock, and then you'll get the 4-digit PIN code right there.
Yeah,
displayed. That's the best way to do that.
Yeah. All right. So I think I'm going to get another grill. I gotta do this without my wife knowing. I got my whole yard is filled with grills.
So I wanted to
pick graveyard.
So I wanted to go back into real quick about. Remember, I told you Green Egg and Weber. So now, fast forward. Now I do have a Green Egg at home. I still use it. But I use it for personal use. I do not use it for competition anymore. My favorite thing is I strictly do wood burner. Just sticks of wood,
Just like a kettle,
No.
not a kettle.
I do an offset. I have
like
an
a
offset
barrel type smoker.
Yeah, I do a barrel with an offset. That's my favorite, hands down. I used to have a reverse flow, which I loved, but I'm starting to just do a standard offset with that. And my favorite piece of type of wood is pecan. I'm starting to love pecan. It's a great mild flavor, a piece of wood and a good flavor of it. And
yeah, I'm trying to still figure out what types of pellets.
Yeah, you can do that. Cherry is great. I love cherry.
Isn't cherry harsh?
It can be. So I strictly do that, like maybe on ribs and stuff like that. But even then, I prefer, believe it or not, I prefer pecan over cherry. But anyone in the call, guys, you can pick. You can say, oh, Scott said this, use this. Don't. Go to what your palate tells you. That's what I tell you. Everyone in the room has a different palate and what their flavor profile likes. That's what I tell people. Yeah. Just because I tell you this, use what flavoring what you like and go from there. That's kind of like what barbecue sauces. Everyone likes different barbecue sauces. Go with what you like. So that's how my recommendation on it. But my advice, don't stop. Just because you have a bad cook. Look, I still have a love-hate relationship with brisket. I do. Yeah. I have cooked amazing briskets before, and I've done it the same exact way of cook to the button. And that brisket turned out terrible.
See, I do fantastic with briskets. I don't know why. Maybe luck. What I really suck at, I'm sorry, is
pork butt,
chicken.
Oh, chicken. See, that's all right. So going to competition. So my teammate and I, we have to break up the cook. Okay, you got to cook this. You got to cook this. So my job on the team was doing pork butt and ribs, and my other counterpart was doing chicken and ribs, and then my counterpart did brisket and pork butt. And my bread and butter is chicken all day. I've gotten more first place finishes in doing chicken than anything else. My ribs, they usually finish in the top 5 pretty much. Not every competition, but majority of them. I cook a really good. And I got the recipe from a buddy of mine, and the way he cooks it, I have eaten barbecue places. I've eaten if I can go to this gentleman's house and eat his ribs every day, I would, because it's, yeah.
My chicken thighs come out like rubber.
Rubber. So what temperature you cook it at? Let me ask
225.
This. What temperature do you take it off the grill?
Probably 160.
See, you're overcooking it.
Yeah, but isn't that...
You're overcooking it. What happens when you let the meat rest? What happens?
It keeps cooking.
It keeps cooking. So that's why it comes dry.
Yeah. I'm always worried about the, blood in the bones and stuff like that.
It's you don't want to know what I pull my chicken in a competition. I'm not going to say it over this. You don't want to know. But at home, I would pull off around you want to be on the safe side, pull off at 155. Yeah, okay. And you can go few degrees lower than that too, because let it sit for 5-10 minutes. What happens? It is cooking internal. That's with my steak. Same things happen with steak. That's why you let it rest.
Good to know. I might try chicken this weekend. I'm going to try it in the muffin pans.
Oh yeah. So if you want to do chicken, you ever brine? This is the big one. You ever brine your chicken?
No.
Brine it.
Okay.
Yeah, just do sugar and salt. Same part. Whatever part the sugar you would put, same part salt. Let it brine. You can brine it for 2 hours, 3 hours. And then this is the big thing with anything. I don't care if this is steak. I don't care if this is chicken or pork butt. Dry it. You ever pat dry your steak? Before you put rub on?
Yeah.
Always, even on chicken, on the call, pat dry everything. Make sure before you put rub on, pat dry it. And then put your whatever rub you want to put on. Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for listening. I'll see you on the next one.